Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check. Of course, brought to you by none other than Because Bitcoin. A reminder that there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about these markets. Welcome, guys. Happy Wednesday. It's been a pretty eventful last week and a half, but here we are. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm, of course, joined by Max Tucker, Jackus, and a special guest today, Guru. Welcome, everybody. Hope we've all had a fantastic week. Hope the audience has all had a fantastic week as well. It is funny because we have had such an interesting bit of price action from Bitcoin and altcoins really over the last week and a half. And we're going to dive into whether or not we think this is the bottom, as well as whether or not, we think this could chase right back to, all the way to the all-time highs. But before we start cooking, before we start sharing all that big juicy alpha, guys, we always appreciate when you smash that like button before we get started. You guys did a pretty good job yesterday when it was just Tucker and I, but now we got the full cast and crew back, outside of just Will, but we do got a full panel today for you guys. So I'm going to ask you to smash that like button for us. We're going to do everything we can to provide you with all the alpha that we possibly can. But let's talk markets, guys. It's like I said, Bitcoin has had some interesting price action there. We were looking at BLX before we went live. The weekly candles, it's pretty reflective of the volatility that we've had, since looking to achieve price discovery after all-time highs. Right, like we've been bleeding for the last few days, the last few weeks. At this point, we are looking to carve out a bottom. This is another constructive looking bounce coming from Bitcoin. Will the bottom be in officially? I think you can make some decent arguments for it. And look, one of the things that we've talked about, especially on yesterday's show, was you love to see funding reset to the same level that it was when we essentially traded in the 40Ks. Open interest is still obviously very elevated, but funding, specifically on positioning, is beginning to reset. That's a positive sign. And I do think generally from a time standpoint that we are very close to the bottom if it hasn't already been put in, right? And I think it is positive as well that you're seeing ETH bounce back as much as it has. ETH Bitcoin up 3% on the day. ETH really led led the move to the downside over the last week or so. I have been relentlessly fudding it. I have decided to pause my FUD on ETH. I paused it at the Bitcoin local bottom, but I'm pausing.
Such a gentleman, Tommy. Such a gentleman.
I am pausing my FUD on ETH, just because of the context, right, guys? We've had Bitcoin sell off 15 to 20% from its local highs. ETH led the downside, and still the ETH Bitcoin pair did not break down. So at least for downside on the USD pair, I think that this ETH Bitcoin pair is safe for now. So I'm not going to FUD it for that reason. But if Bitcoin starts ripping parabolically, maybe I start to bring my FUD back. That's a story for another day. Either way, ETH is dominating today. ETH memes are dominating today. I'm looking at Pepe up 12%. It is National Frog Day, by the way. Happy Frog Day, everybody who's tuning in for Pepe. I'm sure we're going to have some coverage on our favorite frog today.
Tommy, I have to jump in and correct you on something that you said. I know it was an accident, all right, but it's really important. It's not National Frog Day. It's World Frog Day. It's a global holiday. Okay.
The entire globe is celebrating the frogs today, guys. What more can you possibly ask for? I love to see that, man. I love to see that. Maybe we get some even more extended out performance from Pepe here today. That would be cool. Equities, I will just mention we have Powell speaking today. Who knows what's going to happen there? I'm not going to predict him to say or not say anything, but what typically matters in equities is positioning. And yeah, Powell doesn't say anything to address any FUD. We're probably going to close at the highs, and if he does, then we'll probably start to have a low volatility downtrend. That's just kind of the reality of how equities have traded under macro events for the last year or so. But welcome, guys. Is this the bottom? What are we seeing in the markets? This is a pretty good buyback so far. And we do kind of maintain that the bottom is close from a time perspective, but is the USD bottom in? Gun to our heads.
Tommy, before we start off, there was a question from Y2 Janitor, who is Guru Asymmetry. So, guys, we just thought of rewarding all of you guys that turn up every single day here. And I told you that if you guys keep smashing the like button, we will start bringing in new guests, right? And I've been following Guru Asymmetry for a while. He's a very underrated account on X. By the way, give him a follow. He is sub 5K account, but the amount
I
of
have his Twitter in the description, guys. His Twitter is the last link in the description.
But he has been posting so much alpha out there for free, and like you have all these scammers out there with 500K followers, right? Those guys, if we bring those, they would bring the engagement, but they would probably not bring any alpha. Guru Asymmetry brings lots of alpha. That's why we bring him here, because it's for you guys, you know. And he's from UK. He will probably tell you more about himself. But yeah, go guys, give him a follow, and shortly you will hear from him.
Yeah, the guys definitely go give him a follow. His Twitter is down in the description below. But yeah, he's gonna cook for you guys. But first of all, I have to say, Tucker,
Max, you need to observe
propaganda, brother.
You need to. We did this yesterday on the show when you were doing
this
something.
This is something that we talked about.
This is autism right here, man. This is like a 3-year range compared to
I don't know,
inverted ETH BTC. I mean, I see it. I for sure see it.
You see it.
No, I for sure see it. I 100% see it.
Let the record reflect, I am not the one fudding ETH Bitcoin this morning.
I know. That was yesterday.
Tommy, you don't get to do that. You've literally been fudding ETH BTC for like 9 months straight, bro. Like into the ground.
Yeah, no, I'll undo it. I remember, I mean, that type of PA doesn't necessarily work. I remember when we were doing that with a certain purple coin about 9 months ago, and it had a target of basically 0. So it didn't work out. But
it'll still get there eventually, man.
I'm actually just I'm gonna show this real quick. All right. So here's the deal, guys. ETH BTC is trading like absolute dog shit, obviously. Like this is awful. This is abysmal in terms of price action, right? Like the amount of optimism that occurs up here, everybody gets really excited, like, oh, finally risk on rally, ETH beta is about to finally catch on. Oh, it's completely over, ETH to 0. Oh my gosh, we're finally breaking out. That was a huge trap, ETH to 0. It's just been awful. But I think you have to, Tommy had a tweet about this, okay? And I'm actually I'm gonna put this up on the chart because this is really, really. Why did that not save? Oh my gosh! Now I gotta go find the tweet. Hang on, I want to put it up on the chart because this is all you need to know. Okay, this is all you need to know right here. And by the way, for those that watch the show, Tommy hates ETH. He's been fudding ETH relentlessly, trying to send it to 0 with his FUD campaigns. All right, here's what Tommy said. Okay, the biggest fudder of ETH right here. Tommy said, I have been one of the biggest fudders of ETH over the last few weeks / months, and proudly so. He's very proud about it. However, if a 20% correction for Bitcoin with ETH leading to the downside throughout is not enough to break ETH BTC below its current support, then it's probably time to stop fudding, in my opinion. All right. Tommy, great tweet, first of all. But it's a really solid point, guys. This, even though it's trading awful, terribly, we've been here since early Q4. This is concrete. Clearly, this level is concrete. There is demand, serious demand. It's been tested once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 7 times over a 5-month period. This 0.051 to 0.05 level. Clearly, there is demand for ETH against Bitcoin at this level. So contextually, it also makes a whole lot of sense because my bias for Bitcoin dominance right now is literally it's about to enter a 6-month capitulation. Okay. So moving over to this line, actually, let me just go back. I'll just recreate it on here, guys. Like, let's look at what happens potentially. Actually, let me do this. We're going to add on 2 more charts here. Okay. So here's ETH BTC, and I can make this a little bit bigger. Here's Bitcoin USD. Don't need that. Let's hide it. But if we're looking at this on like the ultra high time frame, you know, let's take a look at where, you know, what happened last cycle, right? When did ETH BTC start to really perform well? And it was more or less right when Bitcoin, you know, started this move up. All right, so here was Bitcoin last cycle. Here's like the real bull market, right? Like this was your parabola for Bitcoin. So when did ETH BTC start to do well last cycle? From a timing perspective, I mean, right here, right? Like you had this wick down. I mean, you could even say it started over here, right? But point being is like in this general region, this is when Bitcoin's bull market last cycle happened. So contextually, it makes a lot of sense that there is concrete at 0.05 on ETH BTC. Furthermore, looking at Bitcoin dominance, you know, my bias is that I already have this actually drawn out here. You can see Bitcoin dominance started to nuke. ETH BTC started to chat. It was choppy, but it chatted. And then Bitcoin USD went up and actually, you know, got above its previous all-time high, right? So if we're looking like here. So just, I mean, it just kind of aligns with my general bias that Bitcoin dominance is getting ready to roll over. Bitcoin USD is getting ready to, you know, start its next leg up. And we should see altcoin outperformance, and there should be outperformance at least from Ethereum against Bitcoin. But I'll stop there. We can chat about it. But I just kind of wanted to set the stage. Like, I feel like the market is telling you what's about to happen. The market is tipping off where the liquidity is about to rotate to. And I think it's going to be ETH beta, truthfully.
Yeah. No, I pretty much agree. And what's gonna be the biggest beneficiary in terms of ETH beta, Max?
It's World Frog Day, isn't it, Tucker?
Yeah, who could have foreseen, honestly?
Yeah,
the whole altcoin market is going to be the beneficiary of it.
Everything.
People are, yeah.
I'll go back to you here, Tucker. But Guru, man, what are your thoughts on a potential rotation into risk, maybe spearheaded by Ethereum here? Do you share a similar bias?
Yeah, well, thanks so much, firstly, for having me on. It's a pleasure. There's a number of really interesting things playing out right now, in my opinion. I think we're seeing a real dynamic shift in the market, just because of the level of sophistication of the average participant dramatically increasing with the ETF approval and potential ETF approval of ETH as well. I mean, the jury's out on that one still, obviously, with I think it was BlackRock. They tried to was it BlackRock or someone else? They tried to introduce staking into their proposal. I mean, something like that doesn't take place if you're not supremely confident, in my opinion, in the ETF being approved. But yeah, as I said, the jury's out still. I think traditional finance and the world of traditional finance is still only just now coming to terms with the fact that Bitcoin and these digital assets, which represent the analog being gold, are an actual serious asset class. So, I mean, in terms of sort of what we're seeing a big shift in attitudinal risk. We're seeing a big shift in portfolio allocations to this asset class. And because of that, we're seeing more aggressive rotations, which I wrote quite an extensive thread on Twitter a while back, before this cycle started, that rotations are going to get increasingly more aggressive as participants become more knowledgeable. And obviously, if you can't stay on top of those rotations, the easiest thing to do would be just to sit, hold spot, get your flak vest out, get your crash helmet out, and hope the cycle plays out as it does traditionally. Yeah, we're seeing a lot play out right now in terms of potential rotations after this washout, which I'm sure all of you guys will agree is very healthy. The longer that we sustain a sort of parabolic uptrend, the more unsustainable the market gets during a bull run, as we're seeing. So this sort of washout, wiping of leverage, wiping of open interest is very good to basically maximize the time that we see this bull market run for, and it makes it overall more sustainable. In terms of sectors that we're going to see the next rotation towards, something I've been quite vocal about on Twitter, I'm pretty bullish on the BRC20 ecosystem. Not many people talk about it. Not many people are sort of that vocal on Twitter about it. I was pretty vocal back in sort of November, December time for Mubi specifically, being a sort of BRC20 bridge. First mover in that space, obviously achieving sort of exit velocity. It's died a death since then. It's been kind of like a time-based capitulation and a bit of price-based capitulation as well. But if you look at the run-up, especially on the DEXs as well, this is on MEXC, so it got listed after sort of a month or so on Uniswap. The run-up was huge, and it was just vertical. People were going crazy. The entire bubble was massive, especially in the Asian countries as well. It was insane, the move. And yeah, we're seeing
what is Mubi exactly? I've never.
Mubi's it's a bridge. It basically bridges all the other chains to the Bitcoin ecosystem, which we're only now really seeing slowly start to be fleshed out because of the ETF approval, in my opinion. So the ETF approval has brought a lot more money to the Bitcoin ecosystem outside of Bitcoin. A lot of institutional money is wanting to now speculate further, move out on the risk curve and delve into DeFi further. And a lot of them have got into other chains, other protocols, and want to bridge back to this now sort of young, growing Bitcoin ecosystem, which is slowly being fleshed out. Mubi really has first mover advantage in terms of being the first chain, the only chain with serious volume. But what really impresses me about them is I'm in contact on Telegram with the devs and their founder as well, Bizonarchi. You can follow him on Twitter. They're continually shipping. They don't care about the price. They don't really talk about the price, and they're just sort of working on giving revenue shares and revenue streams to holders, incentivizing holders. They've just launched a farm for basically revenue sharing in terms of the bridge, etc. So there's some really cool stuff they're doing. There's obviously quite a few other really exciting projects in the BRC20 ecosystem. I think Ords is another one. They're aiming to be like the Uniswap of the BRC20 ecosystem. That chart is looking a lot more constructive than Mubi's at the moment. But there's a lot of real cool things happening in this eco, and I think when Bitcoin convincingly breaks its all-time high, and we've seen it kind of flirting around it, not really properly breaking it yet, maybe for a day or two, and then being slammed back down into the prior range. But when it convincingly breaks the all-time high, I think that BRC20 is going to catch another bid. And with the ecosystem being such a small market cap right now, yeah, it's going to be a pretty eye-watering move, in my opinion, when it happens. But yeah, as I said, we're seeing time-based capitulation on a lot of them at the moment, specifically moving.
So what are your thoughts on ordinals?
Yeah, ordinals it's an interesting one. I think the thing with cryptos in general is we live in our own echo chamber to some degree. And especially on crypto Twitter, we a lot of the time fail to recognize that to the outside newbie and participant, no matter their level of sophistication, things are difficult to grasp outside of just the ordinary kind of price and market rotations of assets. For example, like NFTs, similar to ordinals, in that it's kind of like an alternative asset within the crypto ecosystem. NFTs is very hard to grasp by a lot of people. A lot of people just think they're JPEGs. Ordinals, again, similar sort of value capture. But again, it's going to take a little while for them to properly catch on, just as obviously participants learn more about the space and learn more about the value opportunities that are on display here. One thing I'm really excited about actually is the NFT market on the BRC20 ecosystem. Things like puppets, Bitcoin puppets, those sorts of things, they're pretty cool. They've got great potential to grow over the next few months, I think, as well. But yeah, just keeping it sort of on sort of the purely on the price basis, I think in terms of rotations, I think BRC20 is going to be a big beneficiary of this potential breakout in the next few weeks.
So this news just dropped. Tommy,
Yeah.
do you see the screen?
Oh my God.
Do you see the chart, Max?
No.
Check the chart, bro.
Never a fun day to be an ETH holder.
That's probably some absolute FUD, coordinated FUD, which is going to get bit so quickly, especially when it's from these, news accounts, quote unquote news accounts. That's what usually happens, but we'll see.
You know what I would
think,
like to see?
Hmm.
I think it's time that we see some soybeans, guys.
Oh,
oh
man.
yeah, people are not appreciating that we break
Are we
out
close
flooded
enough
B.
to where we don't have to put it on for too long?
But
Let's
the way,
see.
by the way, Guru, if you want to share your chart as well, just let us know and we pop it on.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, I'm in Moody myself. Just a low size position, but in it, as a low cap. And I think the scaling we have there, I think it's going to $1 or higher, to be honest.
Agreed. Yeah, they're doing everything right. The team's doing everything right. I mean, the biggest red flag I think when talking to devs, when talking to teams, is when they start talking about the price of their own project. It to me indicates that incentives aren't really aligned properly. And again, during a bull market when money is in abundance, things are a lot easier, right? But does the team and the devs have the staying power to ship and produce and stay around during a bear market? And if they're talking about price too often, to me, it's a bit of a red flag that really they're going to go missing when things aren't rosy and money's falling from the sky. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I've really liked about sort of talking to the movie guys. But yeah, I think BRC20 is going to be a big rotation at some point. When it's going to happen, I don't know. It looks kind of like it's gone through an entire Bitcoin market cycle almost. So yeah, we'll see. Yet to be determined. I think restaking as well, liquid staking is another good one ahead of the Eigenlayer launch. That could be another pretty cool narrative to play. I'm not sure when's Eigenlayer dubbed to be released. I'm not sure.
All right, we got to the likes, guys. We can get off the soybeans now.
Hang on.
We got it, Max. We got it.
Whoa. What did we get?
We got 102.
103.
Yeah,
guys, just a quick reminder before we head over to Guru's charts here. If you guys are enjoying the content, please just take one quick moment, hit that like button. It really helps boost the show. It helps boost the channel. The reason we are growing so quickly is because of your guys' consistent support of what we are building here at Because Bitcoin on a daily basis. So guys, hit that like button. And if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. Again, thank you guys so much. And for those of you watching on X right now, you have a super secret special function where you can easily share by just hitting the retweet button. Guys, let's run up the likes. Let's run up the retweets. And again, thank you guys so much for being here. We are almost done. Is this Lean Hog? Lean Hog Futures?
Lean Hog Futures.
Lean Hog Futures. Yeah. This is Lean Hog on the 24-minute chart.
Max, you need to tell Guru what's happening. I'm sure he's confused.
So Guru, when they don't like we don't get enough likes on the live stream, we punish the audience by putting up some of the charts that nobody would ever care about. Like we'll go to the soybean chart on the 1 second time frame until we get enough likes on the stream. So just something fun we do here at Because Bitcoin. Anyways, let's throw up Guru's charts. Guys, Guru, you are now live on the screen, man. It's all you.
Yeah, perfect. So just delving into, I guess from our high time frame context, just want to dig into, I guess, what's going on really in the market. I mean, in terms of crypto, obviously everything is governed by liquidity, right? Global liquidity. This is kind of my favorite measure of liquidity at the moment. This is the ticker here, so I'll post this on my Twitter and in the chat later on. But this drive here down into this sort of massive demand zone was my signal to get a little bit more aggressive, sort of late Q4 or early Q4 rather, 2023, and start really sort of getting that gross exposure level up in spot. For me, this sort of higher low formed on global liquidity signaled that we were going to see a real convincing bottom put in on cryptos, etc. So that's when I started adding risk. This is really what I'm going to be using as a metric to view sort of where we are on the macro cycle in terms of money flow in the crypto ecosystem. Like I said, we tend to sort of view this market through the lens of our echo chamber. In reality, it's only really moved by the money flowing in, and as soon as the money stops flowing in, we get a repricing. We generally see a top, and obviously we see a bear market. Look what happened here in 2022 when the Fed started hiking rates. Naturally, obviously we crashed completely down conveniently into this sort of demand region here, and we've moved up ever since. But you can see obviously the gaps that are left behind. You can see the upside. There is a lot more liquidity in the system now. And naturally, Bitcoin obviously reflects that. Let me go back to a Bitcoin chart here. We'll go to BLX. We'll go high time frame BLX. So this is the Bitcoin liquid index, really good measure of data of Bitcoin that goes a lot further back than a lot of the other charts. So we've got logarithmic here. So it goes all the way back to 2011. And you can kind of see sort of from a high time frame concept as to sort of where we are in the cycle right now. Traditionally, we get this bull phase, obviously the bull market that we're currently in, a bear market, kind of like a mini echo bubble, and then a sideways or second capitulation, either driven by a black swan event like we had in 2020 with COVID, or by some other random event. And that is the sort of four-phased approach to the market cycle we see in crypto. I, alongside a lot of other people, thought that in this phase we were in now, we wouldn't have such a dramatic bid from the institutions. We've just kind of rallied out of this phase or area where we traditionally see a second capitulation in the markets or some form of convincing bottom put in. And we've just kind of gone absolutely berserk. Looking at the actual Bitcoin chart, again, context is key here, really. We've broken the Fibonacci to the upside from the range high to the range low for the first time ever. This region here, this is the first time it's ever been broken pre-halving, if we're looking from the perspective of halving being kind of, well, almost a month today, actually, the halving. So halving is, going to be around here. So pre-halving is the first time we've ever convincingly broken this. So this paradigm shift we're seeing from the increasing sophistication of individuals in the market and the deeper pockets of institutions is really having an effect on the charts, which is also why up only is bad, because it means that we're going to have a left translated cycle, an earlier top, a shorter, more aggressive cycle. And that's not good. That's not sustainable for price action. It means that obviously we're going to see a bear market sooner, but it also means that less people are essentially onboarded to crypto. There's less time for people who are still getting comfortable with the idea of
I want to ask you a quick question about that. So that's something that we've debated on this show, because clearly we're a few months ahead of schedule right now. Does it imply that we actually global top sooner, or does it imply that, maybe this is kind of like your global adoption phase and you put in a local top sooner than anticipated with a big pullback, but ultimately you go a lot higher and it's not necessarily a shorter cycle?
It's the $1 trillion question, mate. It's the $1 trillion question. So, I mean, I think from one of your old streams that I saw, Max, I'm not sure when the stream was aired, if it was recent or older, you showed a gold chart. I'll bring that up now. We go to gold. It's important, again, from a context perspective, to look at what gold or the gold price did immediately following the ETF approval and the trading date. So the ETF was approved back in 2003, around February, March time.
I think it was 2005 was the dip and the approval of ETF.
If you look at the ETF, the ticker's GLD.
GLD.
It was an Australian firm called, I think, Gold Bullion Trading or something. They didn't do much volume, but it was around this time was the first conversations to do with it. But from a high time frame context perspective, if we're zooming out, I mean, it's pretty much up only since then, with this sort of mini, sort of, I guess, 6-year bear phase. Now, if we look at Bitcoin from this context as well, the difference here between gold and Bitcoin is the programmatic 4-year supply strain, which we see in Bitcoin. So we're going to have these 4-year cycles, irrespective of this sort of constant perma-bid from institutions, simply because of this mispricing and repricing cycle that occurs with the supply and demand mismatch. That's the key thing here. Now, we will just inevitably continue trending upwards. I mean, it's a combination of obviously the supply and demand issue with the supply strain every 4 years, obviously with Bitcoin being capped at 21 million, but also with the weakening of the dollar, which is the underlying denominator of the value of Bitcoin. So you've got a sort of a holy trinity of factors that are eventually going to likely lead to Bitcoin trading. I mean, people say it one day in the millions of dollars. It likely will happen if we continue on this trajectory at some point in the future. I do think that if we continue to rally as aggressively as we are, the danger increases and the probabilities increase of us seeing a sooner market top. But the jury's still out, and it's yet to be determined as to whether we see as brutal of a bear market as we have previously been conditioned to see. Whether or not institutions deem the asset mispriced if it drops 70 or 80% like we previously have seen is yet to be determined. But the people coming in, the individuals coming in, the institutions coming in generally have a much longer time horizon on these investments than we do. We look at these from one cycle to the next. Generally, people buying Bitcoin now through the ETFs are looking at multi-decade allocations. So it's not something I think we need to worry about. We'll still see secular cycles, but these pullbacks are good to reset the market. We saw some insanity the other day. I think it was Slurf. I mean, things like that are so bad for the space, but it did mark the kind of local top. So yeah, that's kind of my immediate take on where we are.
Yeah, those are some great thoughts. I think we're more or less kind of beating to the same drum here. I mean, the good news is that we were all up here positioned ahead of, I guess, ahead of this potentially expedited cycle. But I'll be honest, I didn't attach a super high probability that we would blast off to all-time high before the halving. I thought there was a chance, and I was positioned for it. It didn't matter if it did or if it didn't. But interesting to see. You know, I mean, my hope is that Bitcoin does something like gold does, and we basically just enter, you know, the meme of last cycle. This is a super cycle, right? Super cycle became such a meme because everybody that said it at the top of last cycle got wrecked. I hope that they were correct and there's a super cycle coming for Bitcoin and crypto, but they were just one cycle too early, you know, and we basically now have Bitcoin with a finite supply and a halving coming up in 5 weeks that now for the first time has passive flows, which is going to be important for it to reach that next category of asset.
For sure. That's the key thing here. As you mentioned earlier, Max, you mentioned adoption. We're seeing that now. Look at the on-chain metrics on assets like Solana. Look at how crazy it's going. I mean, a lot of people are being onboarded simply because of the accessibility of that casino. And whether we like it or not, people, again, think that memes are, a lot of people outside of the crypto sphere think memes are a joke, think they're ridiculous, but ultimately it represents what this entire space is about, and that is the democratization of finance. It represents why people enter the space in the first place, and it represents obviously the opportunity to make those outsized asymmetric returns by taking an appropriate amount of risk. Obviously, not a lot of people take that appropriate amount of risk, but it's democratized, and it gives you the opportunity to do those sorts of things. I mean, we saw it in 2020 with GameStop, for example, this sort of collective sort of herd mentality of investing. And that's why markets like the meme market, Pepe, WIF, Sheeb, etc., they're so good for sort of onboarding people and helping push us through that adoption phase that we're currently in.
And Guru, what are your thoughts on the altcoin market? Because a very common opinion that's been shared, and I'm sure you're familiar with it as well, altcoins are not going to have the rally that they've had in previous cycles because all this liquidity is now tied up in the spot ETFs, and they won't be able to actually sell spot Bitcoin to rotate into alts. I'd love to get your thoughts, man. Do you think that we're going to see a Bitcoin dominance capitulation and, alt mania like we've historically seen, or is this cycle different in that regard?
I think this is the main question that people want to know the answer to, really. I think we will always get alt seasons, so long as people oscillate between the two states of fear and greed. If you can picture the average participant who is now emboldened to get exposure to this asset through the ETF approval and the legitimization of the asset class, they're going to start slow. They're going to dip their toe in with Bitcoin, maybe Ether allocations as well. And as they see gains, there is no better advertising campaign than them talking to their friends about making money in this market. Eventually, you're going to get people moving out on the risk curve, getting more confident in this market, getting more confident in their ability to call this market. And that just naturally is going to lead to what we know as an alt season. Obviously, this is total 3. Obviously, you fellas know exactly what this chart is. It basically represents the total crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin and ETH, currently sitting at 675 billion. Just really simply, let's go historically here. Let's run a trend-based fib extension. We'll go bottom, top, bottom. Really simply, first extension target, second extension target, we went way above that, way above the second extension target. If we look at that as a metric as to where we can get to, the peak of maximum potential that we can get to, and run that on this current cycle, it gives us kind of like a rough gauge, again, from the COVID bottom to the top and to the bottom again. It gives us a rough gauge of kind of the extension targets we should be looking at as probable for this market cycle. Possible and probable I use sparingly, because really anything is possible. I mean, we could get to 10 trillion, but it's whether it's probable, that's what we're interested in here. And just using the previous altcoin market mania, when arguably there was less liquidity in the global financial system, less eyes on the space as well because of the lack of an ETF. We can see here that using that previous data set, we're looking at a 2 trillion alt market cap, potentially an extension to 3.17. And if we look at really where we got to on the last cycle, we could get to somewhere around here. I mean, I don't need to tell it to you guys, but that's going to be a pretty damn ridiculous alt season, or series of alt seasons if we get it. I'm keeping my sort of expectations measured for now, looking at this level here at around the 2 trillion mark. That's a 205% increase on altcoins. I mean, if you're sitting in sound altcoins, naturally they should go up significantly more than that. But I just think as long as human greed and fear exists, which is a near certainty, we'll always see alt seasons because people get more emboldened to speculate more and move out on the risk curve in this market.
Yeah, great points.
Yeah, I would add to that, first of all, that I'm on the same page as you here, Guru. Second, whenever, like, I think there could be a common misunderstanding when we, for example, do like, hey, we think the total 3 here is going to go 200%, and they're like, what? That's it? So my coin is only going to do 200%, and that's not what we are saying, basically, because I think the way it should be, thought about, it should be like, yeah, there will be some coins that obviously do just quote unquote 200%, but there will be some like there's lots of Dino coins that just keep on perpetually bleeding, and there'll be essentially lots of rotation from those. But this 200% increase is like the overall increase in the market, while there will be also going rotations in the market and some of the newer alts with really low market caps. Like if you think about it, right? Think that some alts, even like I think Pepe still is around 2 billion, right? Just 2 billion, and then think about like this whole market cap of like every single alt out there. So when we're talking 200% for total 3, that's really like 2000% for many of these lower cap market coins. So
exactly that. This is the aggregate, which also assumes again, through that sort of thought process, Jack, is if you're assuming that your coin's only going to go up this amount, that assumes that the ratio of weighting between each coin stays exactly the same, which is just not going to happen. You're going to get money flowing increasingly to coins that have more utility and more value and stronger marketing, and also more narratives. So you're going to get other coins, like you said, like Dino coins that just don't move at all, and you're going to get market share stolen from them, and coins that pull 100x, 200x maybe, coins that pull 2x, maybe even don't even move at all. So yeah, this is just the aggregate market movement of 200%, which if you're in sound investments, likely represents significantly higher gains.
And by the way, this price increase, this is something that I've been saying for a while, that the whole crypto market cap, so the total, just the total, should really reach double digits market capitalization this cycle, I do believe. So, and there are actually some pretty good data points for that. And I also think this cycle, and I kept on reminding these guys, you remember me saying that, I think this cycle will be kind of different on its own. And that's due to the confluence of lots of things. One of those being that we are heading into this, decade of commodities where we see gold being at all-time highs. We see that there are, pretty long QEs for people stacked in China to buy gold. We see silver just breaking out, copper pumping, and everything lining together. So I do believe this will naturally bring more capital inflows in Bitcoin itself as it rides the wave of the commodities, it being the digital commodity. And obviously, Bitcoin in this role will be like an altcoin to all these other, major world economies, because it's simply a way lower market capitalization, in that asset, in that regard. And we also have all these, institutions suddenly jumping in. We also have, we had the largest QT in history, and obviously that will most likely lead to the largest QE. We will have governments that will need to buy their own debt, and because all of these other it's like a broader topic, but I do see that all of these factors, if you start combining them, they're coming together, and the crypto market it's this very unique specific time of history when it's all lining up together, and it can bring just absolute insane inflows of capital for this one. So as you said, Max, by the way, that the meme of the past cycle with the super cycle may actually come with this one. And I do not think this is sustainable for all the other cycles in future, right? But for this one, I totally do see that. And I also do think that just now that we got like a world Wall Street, like Wall Street and world major institutions acceptance of Bitcoin with the ETFs, I do think that the next step is for these other altcoins. When the world realizes that they are not really securities, because there are actually more use cases for the tokens, and they will deem them as like, hey, this is a new breed of assets, right? They are kind of like securities, but not securities, because they offer all of this, and we need to treat them differently. Hey, here is the regulatory clarity, and here you can invest here and there. And I do think this comes in, and absolute insane capital will start pouring in the whole market, and that brings kind of the meme super cycle this time around.
100%. I think it's so important as well to look at like I said earlier, the level of participant. I mean, we're looking at governments now. This is the first cycle that we're seeing a full cycle with El Salvador, for example. That they kind of joined sort of mid-cycle last market cycle, but we're seeing other governments express interest. I think just the other day, I was being told by someone that the Japanese government's pension investment fund, which is one of the world's largest pension portfolios, has recently started showing interest in exploring Bitcoin allocations. I believe they're sitting on over $1 trillion notational of assets. So you're getting some serious interest now from ridiculous sums of money that are looking at getting the digital version of what they've been comfortable in, which is gold, the analog version of the hedge against inflation. And as we all know, the asset class of Bitcoin and the sort of value proposal of it, it's vastly superior in many ways to gold, in terms of obviously fungibility, transportability, having a fixed supply, etc. So we're seeing this attitudinal shift in big money and at governmental level now, which is going to propel us into this, as Jack has said, this commodity super cycle whereby gold, Bitcoin, oil, copper, they all sort of rally in situ, and money sort of flows between all of those sort of market ecosystems.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm seeing. And I think lots of people are not acknowledging this. They are not acknowledging that we kind of ended this fiat era that started in 1971 and ended, in my opinion, with the seizure of the dollars in the Russian central bank, in my opinion, where we are quite obviously, seeing all the nations around the world like starting to acquire gold quite heavily. We are starting to see, the status quo that used to be that like, all right, we produce products, we then receive dollars and we park them in the US government bonds. We are now start to see the other nations stop purchasing those, right? Which will essentially, in my opinion, lead to Fed essentially buying back their own debt, which will introduce the yield curve control as well. And I do think even with like, think about it, you're like Saudi Arabia or Qatar, right? And you are producing insane amount of oil. And US keeps being a little bitch out there, attacking everyone, trying to impose sanctions on everyone and so forth. And you kept buying their debt and you have all this cash because like, you sell oil, you receive dollars back. So you can have them depreciating or you at least earn some interest on them, right? But imagine that now you can instead park some of that cash into BTC, which by the way, is what's happening right now with lots of these oil countries. Not to mention that they can now, instead of just burning the methane, right, they are now burning the methane to power the energy into the BTC miners. So I think, this is not like a, 1 month's change, but this is like more like in the next many years, we will see kind of this flow of this rotation of the global monetary system, in my opinion. I don't know, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like I said, it's this attitudinal shift. I mean, we live in an age of excess, and the entire system we live in is predicated and basically runs off inflation and inflationary sort of. I need to say tokenomics there, inflationary economics, simply because of obviously birth rates. I mean, more people are being born. There's more mouths to feed. Economies need to grow. GDPs need to increase, and obviously the underpinning sort of proponent of that is inflation, and that erodes people's savings. That erodes people's sort of previous or historic work and effort put in, and so we are increasingly getting a movement globally towards hard assets whereby there is a finite fixed potentially amount in circulation or that are tangible, where there is some sort of finite element to it, because it's the only way that people have to basically ensure their future purchasing power. And that's kind of where we are on the global level at the moment. And yeah, we're seeing Bitcoin reach that sort of exit velocity in terms of global adoption. And as I said earlier, it will one day likely trade against the US dollar as the denominator at sort of upwards of a few 100,000, maybe even 1 million. There is no real cap to it because we know the supply. And obviously it's super exciting to be in. When I say early, I don't mean sort of in terms of the early adopter phase of this cycle of this asset class. But when I say early, I mean, you're still ahead of governments. You're still ahead of the big money getting involved. And they're only just dipping their toes in now. So yeah, you are relatively early. There will become a time in the not too distant future where having one Bitcoin is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've heard that that thesis before. I can't even I can't even kind of fathom a time when one Bitcoin is that scarce, but I mean, it's coming. It's written in the code, right? I just wanted to get your take, like besides Bitcoin DeFi, what else are you kind of looking at in terms of sectors? I know this is a little deviation from what we were just talking about, but like, you know, are you looking at any of the there's a few gaming plays that I've been looking at recently that I think are going to be nice, but I just wanted to see what else you were looking at besides the kind of Bitcoin DeFi.
Yeah, so I mean, so in terms of the sectors, we need to look at really what people are going to look to invest in as soon as they dip their toe in for the first time in these markets. The real buzzword in the stock market right now is obviously Nvidia. I don't actually know what the market cap is right now. I think it was something stupid last time I checked. Let me just Google it. It's, I mean, look at that. That's insane. That's bigger than the entire market at the moment. That's just a ridiculous valuation. And you're eventually going to get, I mean, a lot of people are in profit there, right? You're eventually going to get a rotation of profit taking from Nvidia, from the traditional market AI sector into likely an emerging market AI sector, such as the AI sector in cryptos. Now, the AI sector in the crypto market is absolutely tiny. I think quite a few sort of individuals on Twitter have pointed this out a few times now. If we look at the AI sector here, the overall market cap is 23 billion. That's nothing. I mean, right now, I think Doge is sitting around that market cap. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's sitting around sort of the that region, I think. Let me see. Yes, I mean, we're similar. 18.9. So let's say 20 trillion for argument's sake. Doge is sitting around the market cap of the entire AI sector in one of arguably the most exciting markets in the world right now. So there's a repricing, a serious mispricing here that needs to occur. You're going to get this influx of investors likely taking profits. I think the NVIDIA conference is on now. It finishes tomorrow, I believe, on the 21st of March. You're going to get a lot of people kind of front running that narrative, thinking it's going to be the top for NVIDIA and likely cycling or rotating their profits into AI and crypto. So this is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting sector at the moment that I see in the crypto market. We've seen these huge rallies as well in a lot of these coins. One coin I'm looking at the moment, I'm still researching it. In terms of fundamentals, I'm not looking at it from a sort of a technical perspective. I'm going as left of the bell curve as I possibly can on this. AIOZ. So I'm still researching. I don't really know even what it does, but it's an AI coin, and it's the first AI coin that comes up when you type in AI into Coinbase. So sometimes you kind of have to dumb down your investment thesis and literally think, what is the average person who's either firing up their Coinbase app for the first time in 4 years or for the first time ever downloading Coinbase gonna think? And they're going to dip their toe in on likely Coinbase in AI, and that's something like that's going to come up first. I mean, something as simple as Ocean Protocol. Look, it's an AI project. It's got the name Ocean. People are going to punt on it just because of the name, because it's cool. So you've got to kind of dumb down the investment thesis when looking at sort of a macro sector like this, AI, which is almost definitely going to be the beneficiary of a lot of capital inflow. GameFi is also
Guru, I have a question for the AIOZ, because I often wonder how to approach these, because if you open the chart, it legit went plus 4,000% from its bottom.
Yes.
And how would you approach a market like this? Like, obviously, like, would you just shove in some, just completely left curve? Would you wait for some deeper retrace, like, let's say, 38% retracement, 50% retracement, or how do you approach a market that you want to be in, but obviously the price pumped so much?
That's one of the most important questions, I guess, for participants coming into the market now. They may be put off by the fact that we are up quite high off the lows. That there's no doubt about it. Something like this, I mean, look, if you look at the 1 year here, 2,700%, 27x, which is huge. The key thing really here is in crypto, things can always pump more. I think market cap and FDV is one of the most important valuations to look at. And then similarly comparing it to comparables and prior price history of other comparables in the sector to look at what is possible. So, I mean, look, we're sitting under $1 billion market cap now. This is the most simplistic way of doing this you can use. So we're sitting under $1 billion market cap now, 929 million. Render is 4.3 billion. So at a bare minimum, it's got a 4x in it to hit sort of what Render is. I mean, the AI sector in crypto is still quite young, so we don't have prior cycles really to go off. We do in terms of these coins, but it was never it never had the attention that it has now. So yeah, we've got a 4x here at the bare minimum. If I look at the chart as well, yeah, it's insane. This is the chart on Coinbase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any other charts that you know which have more price history on AIOZ?
KuCoin, but it's not really that much of a change.
Yes, again, it's the same thing here. You can see again, we've not even reached sort of contract highs here. What I would say is not having any exposure is the bigger risk on an asymmetric asset class like this, where there is asymmetric upside with the risk to reward profile. Not having any exposure is the biggest risk. I'd say with an asset like this that is sitting under $1 billion market cap still, which is tiny. I mean, that's even a 20x to get to where Doge is, right? I'd say, yeah, not having any exposure is the biggest risk. If you're looking to get involved in an asset like this for the first time, you are kind of jumping on a moving freight train, yes. But what I would do is I would just start scaling in. We've had a big retrace already. Look, it's already been bought up. I would get a position and then build your position around that position. You don't want to be chasing it as it's going parabolic. You want to be getting into an asset like this now after we've had kind of a bit of stagnation and we've had a pullback. But if we look just from a super simple perspective here, we've got these candle bodies here. Look, we've kind of wicked above it, had a deviation above, slammed back inside here. And look, we had this accumulation bottom, broke out here from this accumulation bottom. And yeah, we are seeing a new secular cycle. Really, for all intents and purposes, if the bull market was over, this would be a top. But again, just from the charts I've shared, and Jack, it's what you said about it being a sort of a commodity super cycle that we're entering now. Again, we're seeing a Bitcoin ETF that was green lighted a couple months ago. This, from a high probability perspective, is not the top. And as I said, just the left of the bell curve investment rationale. If you type in AI on Coinbase, this is the first coin that comes up. So this is a really promising one, I think. I've yet to delve, as I said, deeper into specifically what it does, looking at the team or the marketing, but just from a kind of left of the bell curve perspective, you've got an undervalued sector here, a project that's on Coinbase, so it's got a lot of liquidity. And yeah, that kind of ticks a lot of boxes really for me.
How much would you allocate in such a coin? Like 1%, 0.5%, 2%? What would be your allocation in coins like these?
It's an impossible question to answer unless you can unless you know about the individual investing in their investment portfolio, their investment risk appetite for a start as well. I think the most favored investment portfolio that I kind of advocate my clients to take is something we're probably quite familiar with it, but others might not be, a kind of barbell strategy. So you've got obviously an equal and opposite barbell with weights on either side. Barbell strategy, if you're maybe a little bit more new to crypto or you're kind of jumping in sort of midway through a bull market, kind of allows you to get access on one side to sort of the high beta, sort of really high risk, high volatility, high asymmetric risk reward assets. Things like Pepe, things like WIF, Doge, but also the much lower cap coins as well and on-chain coins. And on the left side of the barbell, I'd go for the maybe top 5 market cap in AI or top 5 in GameFi, L1s, Bitcoin, Ether, etc. And what you can do is build your portfolio around this framework, let's say 75% here and 25% here, and flesh it out knowing that you've got your anchor and then you've got your high beta, sort of high asymmetric risk reward assets on this side. And you can kind of use a cash pot in the middle. And that's kind of the portfolio sort of barbell allocation that I advocate people take if they're entering for the first time fairly late this cycle. But in terms of an individual portfolio perspective, saying how much you'd invest in one coin, it's impossible to answer without knowing sort of the portfolio size or the investor's risk appetite.
Yeah. Man, I'm absolutely on the same board, and something that I've been preaching myself for a while. So at least those of you guys that are part of the BB Discord, you guys know what Guru just spoken about, hopefully. Yeah. Uh, Moving away from this, what do you think? You talked about like, when you type AI on Coinbase, the first thing that comes out is AIOZ. What do you think about the ticker AI? Well, like that's even more left curve than AIOZ.
It is,
Just
yeah.
AI.
It will literally do well just because of that. I was actually involved. I think probably quite a few people were involved in the Solana coin that had the ticker AI. I had no idea what it did, but it literally just because it had the ticker AI, I invested in it, and then that just got absolutely hammered when this project Sleepless AI came out on Binance. You guys probably remember.
Yeah.
We were all in the trenches slinging this on this ticker on Solana, and then this came out and just hammered it. But yeah, this will do well literally because it's got the ticker AI. An important thing to look at as well when doing your research on these markets and on these sort of assets within this specific sector is naturally liquidity. It's great having the ticker AI, but if this ticker AI was only listed on some smaller exchanges, let's say HTX or DigiFinex, which I've never even heard of, or Bitmart, obviously the amount of volume that is sort of latently going to flow into it or available to flow into it's going to be significantly decreased. But because it's on Binance, the highest volume exchange by a significant margin in the world, look at that there, 45 million in the last 24 hours, that's going to do very well. To be honest, again, I don't even know or care what it does. Just because of the ticker, it will do well, and because it's on Binance, it's as simple as that. The thesis, and a lot of sort of, I know we talk about the bell curve a lot, but a lot of mid curvers, they generally cheat themselves out of gains because they try and overanalyze a project or an investment thesis or rationale. And you need to understand that most of the market, especially in the altcoins, is moved by people who don't really know what they're doing from the perspective of just having a punt, downloading Coinbase for the first time or chucking $100 here and there. You get a lot of people, millions of people doing that, $100, $200 here or there. You're going to get a huge move similar to GameStop. That's why we saw this sort of blow off top in Dodge, nearly 90 billion or 80 billion market cap, I think it got to last cycle. And it was just sort of a collaborative, community-based investment approach because of obviously Elon shilling it. And that's what's going to move coins. And a lot of the time you kind of had to dumb down your thesis unless you have an edge and you're significantly to the right of the bell curve in terms of knowing something about a project before the herd.
And I
love what Max. Sorry, I love what Max is saying, that the bell curve is actually circle, and sometimes when you go from the left, you switch from the right and back forward. So
It is.
It's really hard sometimes on the bell curve to not flip in the mid, right? Because like we are all trying to thinking like we are right curve, but so sometimes we realize we are just mid curve, and it's really hard to not fall into that trap. So yeah,
100%.
We all have little bits of right curve in us, but at the end of the day, man, I mean, it's you will underperform the furthest left curve market participant. They're going to round trip it and give most of their gains back, but they at one point at their peak, they will have a lot more money than the furthest right curve market participant. They're going to turn their brain off and ape. They're going to be a beneficiary of the times. If Guru's chart plays out and total goes to 5 or 7 trillion, wherever you had it going, I don't remember. Maybe you could pull that back up. Some guy is going to look at that and go, "Oh, AI," and he's going to shove his net worth, just get lucky at the right time into some AI ticker, and it's going to pull a 200x, and then he's going to sell that and buy a meme coin, and then the meme coin's going to 100x, and he's never going to sell his bags, right? Yeah, I mean, it pays to be left curve at the right time, which is why we've kind of been joking about it here, where nobody on this panel is left curve. We're somewhere between mid curve and right curve. But at the end of the day, man, it's like this is sit on your hands season. If you're biased, and you had the BLX chart up earlier, Guru, if that's where we really are in the cycle, I think it was shaded blue. Yeah, if that's where we're at in the cycle, if history tells us anything, it's that the best is yet to come. Right after the Bitcoin halving, minor block rewards get cut in half overnight. The amount of supply that miners can dump onto the open market overnight gets cut in half. If miners are on any given day your biggest seller of Bitcoin and they have half of the amount that they can sell, demand remains constant, supply gets cut in half. Economics 101, you get your green shaded parabola. So if we're really here and Bitcoin goes to 150 or 210K, somewhere in that top target, and we actually get a Bitcoin dominance capitulation in that green zone, which historically is what has happened. Bitcoin dominance has actually nuked while you have that shaded. Again, a majority of the gains percentage wise occur after Bitcoin is in price discovery. The lead up takes a long time, but if we get that right there, Guru, turn your brain off, literally shotgun effect. Throw a little bit of money at every AI ticker, all the meme coins, all the shit coins, and just sit on your hands, and hold through the volatility, because we may just be there.
60% would be rough, man. That would be that would not be fun.
No, it's so difficult to ascertain whether we get up to this kind of region again, which obviously was the sort of high of last cycle in dominance before we got this drop. It's so difficult to ascertain because really it depends on whether these newer participants, these people who are large sophisticated investors who've now, like I said earlier, been emboldened to invest for the first time as it's been legitimized by the ETF. It depends on whether and when they become degenerates, really, for lack of a better word with it. It depends on when they start to move out on the risk curve. It could happen now, and we could.
And I would argue, Guru, that we actually have already seen that a little bit. We've already seen them front running it, just like the halving has been front run. We've seen a rotation into obvious meme coin plays like Pepe and WIF and Doge. Doge being a big one, being it's older than Ethereum, it's decentralized, it's proof of work. It now has DRC20 and Doginals and new functionality in year 10. Doge historically hasn't really pumped at all until Bitcoin is really definitively above its previous cycle all-time high. I feel like this cycle so far could be classified or categorized as a cycle of front running, mainly that we front ran the halving and made an all-time high before, and we also flipped the golden pocket before a halving, which we'd never done before, which you highlighted. So I don't know. I guess it's not my base case that we see 60% on Bitcoin dominance, but also if you look at last cycle, right before we had alt season, Bitcoin dominance had one final deviation up before it capitulated. So maybe something like that happens again.
Exactly. And it's important to understand, obviously, from a contextual perspective, what this represents. And this basically represents risk. That's all it represents. It's the physical kind of embodiment of human greed, this chart. It's going to drop when people get greedy. It's going to rise when people get fearful. And that's all it represents. So the more confident participants get, the more likely we're going to see an alt season. That is simply as simplistic as that, really, in my opinion.
And Guru, have you ever combined Bitcoin dominance and ETH dominance?
I haven't looked at both of them.
It's
combined.
interesting. I don't know if you want
to flip to your. Do you want to flip to your chart? Have you sort of aggregated them before? Or?
Yeah, I've kept an eye on it before. I kind of did it yesterday for our Discord, but I actually think that with ETH kind of in its maturing phase, it does kind of make sense to group them together as a when are we going to get alt season? We don't really want ETH season. We want alt season. When is total 3 going to go crazy? So I think an interesting exercise to do is to just look at Bitcoin dominance and ETH dominance put together. And here, actually, if I pull up Bitcoin dominance right next to it, I mean, you can see that it paints a bit of a, sorry, let me remove these.
That's a really good point, actually. I didn't think to aggregate the two. It's a really good point that now, because ETH is obviously looking to have its ETF, etc., that the two are going to trade somewhat symbiotically, really. So it's the best way.
They already are.
Yeah.
They already are. Yeah. So I mean, I look at this right here. So here's on the left is Bitcoin and ETH dominance mushed together, and on the right is just Bitcoin dominance. I'll make this green again. But the way I look at it is like everybody wants, this inefficiency from last cycle to be completely filled up.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, we've more or less already gotten that if you combine them. Like we, if we were to just go level by level, right? Why does everybody want that 60%? Well, it's kind of like a nice round number, right? You come back and retest this range low right here at 57%, maybe fake reclaim, fill in this inefficiency up to this area. For the technical traders want this region, they want to see this, and then we can go back down, and that's possible.
Max, do you know
Yeah.
what it reminds me? Like when during the bottom of 2022, during the FTX capitulation, everyone look at the USD chart. But if you actually put BTC versus like M2 money supply and all of that, all of those charts already had 14K retest, all of those. While on the USD pair, everyone was waiting for the 14K retest, which we know never came. And it was mainly due to the DXY strengths back then.
Mhm.
And I think this could be very similar, just vice versa, just like with the dominance, where everyone is looking just at the the classical Bitcoin dominance chart, while every other dominance chart that you put on, whether you use the confluence of ETH dominance, or whether you look at like if you divide it by stable coins, or if you compile all these other major assets like BNB and so forth, all of those has retested that breaker, which Bitcoin dominance has not. And I'm feeling it's the reverse situation of BTC bottoming on the USD pair at 16K basically, while all these other metric tokens made that bottom.
Yeah, it's a great point, Jack. It's really a lot of great points. So yeah, this is just a scenario I'm entertaining. Like maybe people are kind of missing sight of how Ethereum should be viewed right now. We want total 3 to perform well. Like total 2 is important, but it's not. I kind of just look at it as like we have Bitcoin or we have total, and then we have total 3. ETH is the same thing as Bitcoin in my mind right now. It's maybe slightly leveraged Bitcoin, when it's behaving appropriately. But this chart doesn't really need to be cleaned up anymore here. Bitcoin and ETH dominance mushed together. This, just looking at it naked, looking at it alone, I look at this right here and I go, yeah, this kind of looks like we want to give out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that looks like it wants to roll. Yeah,
it's kind of hard to see here. Let's see. Yeah, I look at this chart right here. This looks like it has a date with lower prices. Maybe we do, maybe a little something like this, but I think ultimately you probably do something like that. So I'm pretty focused on this.
Some other dominance charts has already broken down. And if you actually drag, you can keep the current uptrend that you have there, but I already see one that was broken, and I'm sure you are seeing that one too, Max.
This local one right here?
No. Drag it from the bottom, but you can already see that it already broken it and had a double retest of the broken uptrend.
Like this?
That's a one. Then there is another one. Yes.
Here?
Yes.
Yeah. Everything is signaling that we're rolling over. Like no matter how you want to draw this, this trend line, we're losing momentum up here. That's what this fan is telling you. Like we're losing, and eventually it just is going to give out. It's going to be like a dam. So
it's coming also at a time when every Bitcoin maxi is still, jerking his dick about the Bitcoin dominance chart and telling you that ETS will swallow all the liquidity. Well, you know how that story ends.
Yeah, we're gonna roll. We're gonna roll over here soon. So it's like I don't know how many stabs at at this high we need to take. Like I think we're done here. Like maybe something like this, but this, in my opinion, is programmed. This level right here is programmed.
Well, Max, what do you think? What do you think the next move on Bitcoin is from here? Right? Because in my opinion, if we're gonna chad to like 80K, you're gonna see dominance spike. there's no way around it. I don't think.
Actually, Tucker,
I don't know.
actually, I talked about that in today's Discord. I'm not sure if you saw that post of mine. I talked about it in the VC call and I posted it in my channel, so maybe check that out. And I do not want to talk about it publicly. It's in my channel.
Discord alpha.
Too much alpha, Jack.
It's too much alpha. It's too much alpha.
I do think that we can gather a certain level of alpha as well from the IWM. When it does begin to tick up, you're probably also going to have good confluence with Bitcoin dominance. Like, yes, Bitcoin dominance can go higher. But as a whole, right, like I think the theme that we're preaching is from a time standpoint, the top is close. From a time standpoint, you're probably getting near where you're going to see people begin to allocate more heavily into altcoins. And that's true also in equities when you look at IWM, which is teasing a 2-year range breakout right now. Maybe a slow dribble upwards on IWM and then a big rip up. But I think you will have pretty good confluence with small cap index with Bitcoin dominance and obviously altcoins as well. I
do agree. I love that, Tommy. I love that IWM confluence, and I'm of the same camp for quite a while at the moment. And by the way, guys, I'm not sure if you are aware, but we have the high in a classical TradFi stocks. We have the highest market percentage allocation in the top 10 stocks since the Great Depression. All right. So what it tells me is that this ratio will start to change and capital will start flowing back into lower caps.
Yeah, that aligns with Tommy's melt up fractal on IWM. Man.
Dude, that's a wild fractal Tommy has.
I'll have to show you after the show, Jackus. That's something the Discord hasn't even seen yet, man. That's a giga bull on IWM type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of aligns with my thesis on altcoins, Tommy. Like there's so much confluence across markets, and it's just being set up for like one absolute manic small cap parabola across the board on Russell 2000 stocks, total 3, in my opinion. I mean, look at this. How many more weekly bear divs do you need to print on this, this aggregated Bitcoin and ETH dominance chart? How many more do you need to print before it just completely rolls over?
Maybe one.
I'm telling you, you lose this, you lose the 50 on the RSI right here, guys. Lights out. Lights out. It's literally nuking. That's
I mean, but that happened. That happened already.
Max, I already hear someone saying, you cannot do bear diffs on something like Bitcoin dominance plus Ether dominance.
No, but Max, you see, we lost the 50 and went higher.
And we printed another bear div. I'm saying you lose it again, it's over.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But you could go.
Jeez, Tucker,
hit that line.
Are you Bitcoin maxi, Tucker?
Yeah, man. I'm a maxi.
Exactly. I will say, like the last cycle, I definitely loved ETH and L1s more than Bitcoin, and now I'm like, I love Bitcoin, man. I will speculate on whatever it takes to get more Bitcoin, but I love me some Bitcoin.
I was always like that.
Here's the thing, man. And we've talked about this. Like, all this other shit is literally worthless. Like, Bitcoin is the only real digital property, digital money, whatever you want to digital commodity, whatever it is to you. It's the only one, in my opinion, that has a real high chance of being here 100 years from now. So we're fun. We're having fun playing in the shitcoin casinos. We play altcoins. We're going to play meme coins. Obviously, like, we're super into all that. But at the end of the day, profits flow back into Bitcoin at the appropriate time. Don't be that guy that's going to sit here and, fundamentally pitch his altcoin for a 20-year hold. It doesn't exist. Okay. And if it does exist, you're going to get lucky because most will go out of business. Okay.
As you say, Max, the thing is that BTC is really the ultimate, like store of wealth, and it will be here 100 years from now. Whereas all these other companies, this is what Bitcoin maxis don't get, in my opinion. So like it's not that you're gonna store your wealth in one of those companies, those blockchain companies, right? They are blockchain companies, and just like with stocks, there will be some that rise. They have their period for like 20, 30 years, and then the capital will rotate to something else. Who knows exactly how it's gonna be? But I can, imagine something in that regard. But at the end of the day, BTC will be the store of wealth that will be here and continue appreciating for the next 100 years.
And the irony of all of it, guys, is that the Bitcoin maxis are totally right. Like, they are 100% right. They're just too prideful to make money while the shitcoin casino is open, or they think that they're above it. If you're above making money in something that's not illegal and it's basically your next door neighbor, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's potentially a once in a lifetime opportunity to make absolutely ridiculous amounts of money and participate in crypto's version of the dot-com bubble between 1995 and 2000. And they look at it and they go, oh no, like, I'm above doing that. I have no interest in shitcoining. I mean, they're not wrong with anything they're saying about Bitcoin. It's like their pride or ego or something gets in the way of this other stuff. And I'm not even saying that as a slight. It's just like, yeah, like, we know that you're right about all the stuff you're saying about Bitcoin, but you're not above all the rest of it, So I don't know. Yeah.
You know what I think we need? Is a higher low on this chart. Okay. I flipped Bitcoin and ETH dominance, right? It looked kind of bearish, whatever. But I think you just need a higher low, because if you look at it even normally, right? Like, this looks like Bitcoin's top from May or whatever, the first top last cycle, right? Like, you had incrementally, increasing highs, and then you put in a lower high and it was completely over. Like, that was it.
I mean, Tucker, I look at that and I see Wyckoff distribution from Bitcoin's first top last cycle, the 64K top.
It was getting PTSD flashbacks when you say it now, man.
Max.
What?
Yeah, it's literally this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
1, 2, 3, 4. You need this. Yeah. This is what we got to put in, and then I'll be on board. Okay, but
that was the China ban, wasn't it? The 99th China ban, I think.
Probably.
May 2021.
China's only banned Bitcoin like 600 times. So.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, you need the lower high, and then I'll be on board. This will be all season. Okay.
But by the way, we got super chat from Cody. Thank you. He is asking, what are your guys' thoughts on the threat to BTC long term from quantum computing? And I do have a great answer to that, but maybe we want to hear what Guru has to say here, if you want to address that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So from the technical side, I'm not very clued up on quantum computing. I know obviously that naturally with the Bitcoin network is obviously, as we all know, secured by the power of the current miners. And a lot of people, just for some context to those that aren't fully aware as to sort of what the question is asking specifically, a lot of people believe that quantum computing will be powerful enough essentially to sort of hack or compromise the integrity of the network. And if that ever occurs, then naturally Bitcoin is valueless. And our bet really is that it never occurs. That's why we're here. Our bet is that never happens, because the network is sufficiently decentralized enough and powerful enough with enough computing to prevent that from happening. The number one thing I'd say, if this is a genuine worry for you, is bet on what you know and not on sort of what could be a possible scenario in the future. That's almost the same rationale, or if you're applying that rationale for not investing in Bitcoin or for being more risk averse in the crypto market, the same rationale could be said for taking all your money out of every market now because you think we're entering a recession. It's not based necessarily on facts that we know to be currently true. It's more kind of jumping at shadows. As soon as a quantum computer comes along that possesses the power to be able to do something like that, then that's when we need to be worried. But it's pure speculation at this moment in time.
I would add to that going away from quantum computing and more taking it as a principle is that there will always be some fear for people. There will be always some scare of whether it's quantum computing, whether it's COVID, whether it's AI, whether it's the globe is round. Just our internal meme. But there will always be some scare of, right? And what people should keep in their mind is that we as humanity we have always overcome any problem, any innovation that came around, and we were better off than we were before. This is what people need to realize. So even if quantum computing were to come in, and I do see it like, it's kind of like, AI will come, and it will, like, we will have Terminator here everywhere, and it's going to be end of the world. And it was like when freaking crossbow was invented instead of bow. And maybe many of you guys not aware, but crossbow was actually banned by the religion that it's a devil's weapon, for some time. And there was also that Christian people could not use crossbow against each other for some time. And there's always like some scare of, for example, atomic bomb also was just a huge scare for everyone. And I wouldn't, as Guru said very well, you really need to look at the data rather than like approaching it from the fear perspective. Whatever it is, whether it's AI, whether it's quantum computing, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion. I think they answered it perfectly, both of you guys.
We need Naka on here to answer that one, man.
He would just fud Bitcoin, man. He just hates Bitcoin.
Oh my
From
god.
quantum computing. Oh,
Oh,
God.
Naka would have a heyday with that one, man. Yeah.
I mean, as the guys in the chat also said, if quantum computing were to come in and ruin BTC, then it would obviously ruin everything out there. The whole financial fiat system would just collapse, if it were to come. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. We as humanity always have a chance. Like there are always these doomsayers, right? It's the same as recession, guys. Like, there's a recession, everything to zero, next, sell everything, exit all markets. But the reality is that there is always some panic, sure. There is always some, even when COVID came, there were some problems here and there already. But, we as humanity learn, we adapt, and we move on, and that's it. So I wouldn't be worried about any of these.
I guess, Jack, is building on what you just said. I guess the other assumption really on that is, why would, if quantum computing is released or becomes powerful enough to be able to compromise the efficacy and sort of security of the Bitcoin network, the other assumption is, why would it be used to target the Bitcoin network first and not something much larger with a greater reward? So that's the other assumption at play, is that it targets Bitcoin first, which I don't think is realistic, really.
Yeah, that's a great point too.
Well, it's like, if they have the tech to attack something through quantum computing, then they also have the tech to protect something from that, right? So it's like, I'm sure the first thing the Bitcoin devs are gonna do is gonna like take whatever tech that is and use it to protect Bitcoin. That might be naive, but like, that's probably what's gonna happen.
I'm sure if quantum computing were to come in, it would absolutely tell us that moving averages are being used as
No.
Yes.
I joked with Tucker about that
Indeed.
last night.
Oh man, look at that resistance.
The moving average you guys
Look at it.
highlighted as support was not support last week. We got liquidated longing it.
Hey man, what are we talking about here?
Say Confluence still, tell me.
I think the low is already in, Tucker, even if we pull back here. I think that low is safe.
Yeah, man. On Pepe, you mean?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to throw some absolute monster back the truck up orders on any little pullback we get here. I'm fully ready, man. I think that low is safe.
I think it doesn't look too bad. Let me get rid of these.
Dude, it's World Frog Day. What are we talking about?
Guru.
Oh, that's a nice little
wow.
visualization of the trend.
Yeah. just don't look at the price. Just look at the moving averages and buy. So
Jack,
No,
is that
Alan.
secret
Alan, I'm fully deployed, brother. I'll be swapping something. I will let you know in the Discord. I know you're in there.
Guru, if you were to share something with us, like some gem that I know that you shared a movie, but is there something else that caught your attention?
So I didn't get on to specifically, I guess, describing why I feel GameFi has a big place in the narrative for altcoins this market cycle, but there are a few GameFi projects that I think are just going to blow people away in terms of the ROI this cycle on them. One of them that I'm really, really excited by at the moment is Prime. You guys have probably heard of it. It's perfect in that it matches two key criteria for me. It's the perfect confluence between GameFi, but also it's got an AI element. So that's what I'm really looking at. It's got the narrative confluence, but also, again, it's a new chart. There's no laddered sort of disgruntled investors from previous cycles. We're in pretty much price discovery as it stands right now, and it's sitting at a very reasonable market cap. So I think it's going to do really, really well in the coming months as we start to see this, as Max said, this moving out of the risk curve and this sort of ETH and Bitcoin dominance capitulation. It's going to do really well, I think. You've got a little cup and handle there as well.
Yeah, I remember one of our teammates, Wabi, was screaming at me to buy this at like $2, and I didn't do it, unfortunately. But let me throw a fib on it. Yeah, $40 seems reasonable. Let's move that right here. 42. I like that.
Already at $24, $25. Holy cow!
Yeah, it pulled a 10x from where he told us to buy it.
Man. Somebody in my Discord, Tucker, you know who he is. He was talking about it. He was talking about it literally like at $1 at the Pico bottom.
Was it fumbled by him?
Yeah, unfortunately, man.
No. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
So guys,
he had so much conviction in the play, and I was like, "What the hell is Prime?"
So guys, we've been going for about an hour and a half, so this is where we are going to call it. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. Guru, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to meet you. It was great to speak with you. Everybody go give Guru a follow on his X account. It is down in the description below. He shares valuable insights. We'll be sure to check in with him, and hopefully, Guru, you will come back on because it was great speaking with you today. Guys, before we let you all go, do us a solid. Hit that like button. And also, if you are new here, please consider subscribing. We just sliced through 8,000 on YouTube like a hot knife through butter. That's thanks to your guys' support. So please like and subscribe. Last but not least, check out the first link in the description below. That will take you to our website where you can browse our premium offerings. You'll notice that the website looks a little bit different as we are getting to roll out the BB terminal. I would recommend joining sooner rather than later, especially if you want to be part of the beta testing crew for BB Terminal, which is basically a Bloomberg terminal. But for crypto guys, it's our new flagship product that we've been working on for about 5, almost 6 months now, guys. We are super proud of how it's turning out. And again, that will be included with your membership if you purchase now. But yeah, I'm going to kick it over to Tommy to say a final farewell. But yeah, guys, great show. Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, guys, thanks, Max. Another great show, like you said. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, wrapping up your Wednesday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are around the globe with us. We appreciate, as always, guys, your continued support of our brand. Real quickly, before we wrap up the show, I want to touch on our programming, of course, as I tend to do at the end of these shows. As you guys know, if you're a regular of Market Check, we will return live tomorrow morning around 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's the typical start time. A reminder that we are live every single weekday and that there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about these markets. Additionally, our flagship show, Market Talk, is live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday around 4:15 to 4:30 Eastern time start. It is a Twitter space hosted by the one and only King Wabi with exceptional guests on every single day. Every week, we talk markets there, everything from equities and general market opinions to meme coins. It's a great time. But yeah, guys, that's it from us. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, a great rest of your week. And of course, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks again.
Cheers, guys.